Hello, this is the 160th Test from the Future, an experimental podcast from the year 2224, which we are sending from our present to yours. My name is Dirk.
And my name is Simon.
And my name is Marvin.
And we're putting the past in podcast.
We've got a whole extra person now.
Yes. We've been playing board games, well, almost non-stop it feels like for the last...
Since the triathlon, yes, of like 2 weeks now.
Yeah, feels like it.
Been a while.
Yeah, we're taking breaks to sleep.
Of course.
And then Marvin is taking breaks to shuffle the cards.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
well,
I don't need to sleep.
So, yeah. But
while we sleep.
You're being kind enough to allow us to.
So it's been a pretty fun time. And then we realized, it's already 1 week has gone by. We need to...
Time for another podcast.
Need to record.
Another episode.
Yeah, exactly. So while Marvin is here, he said he just wouldn't mind being, guest is maybe like a co-host. You could say co-host.
Yes, before I disappear on my next adventure.
You've already got one planned?
No, I'm just going to step into the portal and see where it takes me.
Ah, okay.
Cool. And of course, you're trying all kinds of different things. Now you're trying co-hosting.
Yes.
It's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Can be tried.
And sending audio back in time. Maybe it wasn't on your adventure
Well,
list.
that's something I hadn't done before.
Mm-hmm. There you go. But yeah, we're not doing another interview with Marvin.
Not today.
And we're not talking about technology either.
No.
Because there's a revelation, and not like something that was in the news, but something that we realized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, us independently, the three of us.
Yeah, exactly.
While playing many board games the last couple of weeks, we obviously talking about other stuff too, and we came to this realization. And I did actually try searching. Has anyone else written about this before? Couldn't find anyone talking about it.
Yeah, and this is about the rock faces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just a quick recap. Rock faces are basically part of the landscape.
Yeah.
In the city, in the countryside, at the ocean, wherever.
In the desert, in the jungle, just anywhere, all over the world.
Exactly. And for us, this is normal. We're used to it, which is why we never really paid much attention to it until we started looking at old pictures. Mm-hmm. And in the 21st century and earlier,
there's no sign of them.
These didn't exist.
Correct.
None of these. On all the old pictures, no rock faces show up. And even on the locations where we definitely know that they are, from our time, back in the days, they weren't there. Mm-hmm. And this was something that we realized. And then we thought, let's talk about the rock faces.
Yeah.
But before we start talking about or speculating about what happened, maybe we describe what they look like. Mm-hmm. You guys want to give that a shot?
That makes sense. This is an audio podcast after all. No way at all for our listeners to see what it is that we are seeing, so we need to describe using words.
And especially in this case, this stuff isn't even there in the 21st century, so they can't even go out there and look at it.
Correct.
They rely on us.
We need to draw word pictures for them. So big old heads made of rock. I mean, that's a simple description, but what's interesting is they're all very different from each other. Easter Island had these big heads on there, and those they did have back in the 21st century. But these are much more detailed, much more textured, and although they're made of rock, they have like lots of other colors going on. So they're not just like gray or black or white, depending on the rock. Somehow embedded in the rocks, in the heads, are other stones, other materials that make them colorful as well. They also have some writing on them in places, sometimes in alphabets we recognize, but other times not. And then some of them, the really pretty ones, have gemstones embedded in them, especially in the eyes. So then, when the sunshine is glinting in them, it makes them look extra fancy.
Well, some of the heads that I've seen, some look more human and some look more robot-like, I would say.
That's true. Yep.
I mean, they're all about the same size. I would say about 50 meters tall, around 25 meters wide, and they are looking up into the sky as if observing something high in the sky that isn't there.
Right, or at least not there either anymore or not there yet.
I hadn't realized that. We're all looking up. Mm-hmm. You're right.
Yep, and they're all pretty serious looking. Mouth closed, like you mentioned, eyes looking up. None of them are like, smiling or looking especially upbeat.
True. And it's really just has some. So occasionally there's something that might have looked like the beginning of shoulders, but that's basically it, right?
Yeah, or it could just be a really brawny neck.
Yes, I mean, I've done some of my own research of the archives that I do have access to in my brain, and they do have a particular similarity to 20th century progressive rock music album covers.
Wow. That I definitely...
So wait, maybe these are not the covers themselves, but inspired by those covers.
Oh.
I mean, such
Or the other way around.
artifacts may no longer exist, perhaps in a museum, these particular album covers. But they do have a particular likeness, and the use of dare I say, gaudy colours does particularly evoke that period.
Okay, that's already an interesting idea. But that also leads to our, I was going to say next question, because we don't really have a lot of answers. We have to be honest about it up front. We realized this, we wanted to talk about it. And as Simon was saying, this doesn't seem to be known that they weren't there 200
right,
years
I mean,
ago.
there are articles on Wikipedia about them, like documenting all the ones that are known, photos of them, of course. That's how we were, there's all kinds of information about them, but nothing is mentioned about either who made them or when they first appeared. No kind of history like that. They simply appear to be something that has always been there. I mean, they have been in our lifetimes, yeah. I don't remember a time when they weren't. And it's not like... Sometimes there'll be one that's found, like maybe it was grown over with plants, but it's clearly been there for a long time. It's not like people are finding new ones that have just been made.
True. So they all must have appeared at some point between 200 years ago and, I don't know, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, something like that.
And then this is a thing that makes me think that they are maybe not album covers, but artwork, rather than somehow naturally formed, because some of them, they look really weathered, but the amount of weathering that would have taken for them to reach that look naturally is thousands of years. And they've clearly not been there for thousands of years. So then that makes me think maybe, some prop maker for a film. Maybe these were made for some film or some music video or something like that. And then whatever happened to that project, I don't know. But now they're out there in the world.
I mean, they have certainly been there for quite a long time, because some of them are now host to certain species of animal.
Yeah, of course.
There's one I've seen that has a whole family of penguins living on it, for example.
Yep. And certain mosses grow just on the side of the face that's always away from the not away from the sun, but like under the chin where not enough sun goes. And there's some not breed of, what do you call it, moss? Not a breed of moss, but some type of moss that are unique to their heads.
Isn't there this famous rock face in Namibia where a wolf is living on it?
Yep. Right, that's that one's especially well known. But then it does seem to be a thing. Not all of them, but some of them will have either a wolf or a wild dog. Just the one.
Okay.
That seems to prefer that head as its like lookout point.
You said before, like, they can't have been around for so long, judging from the amount of weathering that they have.
No, the other way around. They look like they have been around for thousands of years. But we know they can't be because from looking at photos from the 21st century, they're not in the photos. Unless they were doctored out of the photos.
Oh.
Because, right, like they look like they have been there for way longer than less than 200 years, yeah? But maybe the photos in the 21st century, somehow someone went in, edited them out.
See, I had a very different theory, but let's think about your idea for a while. If they've been doctored out of the photos, so why?
For what purpose would they be removed from historical records?
That's the tricky thing. I don't have an answer for that.
And also because they are there right now.
Yeah.
So it's like, let's remove them from the original photos while they're actually still there.
I mean, maybe back then in the 21st century, there was something about them that meant that I don't know who, but someone didn't want other people to know about them. So at the time, they were removed
photos. At the time, not now.
Not now. And then at some point, whoever, if it was a person or organization or whatever, that no longer applied. They didn't mind that people knew about them. So from that point onwards, hey, they can appear. And that's why there's no mention of it, because it's not like a big deal. Wow. That could be.
Well, have we considered how the construction of the enormous rock craniums could have been achieved by human beings? Isn't it more plausible they could have been built by robots?
Totally.
And perhaps a robot who after constructing all of the heads, then had their memory erased and now doesn't remember doing it.
Yep. And so didn't think to like make a press release, announcing check out all these cool check out all these cool rock heads because the memory was wiped.
But it must have been then other people that were around at the time that were like, hey, suddenly there's a rock head in my garden, because they were also in gardens. And so
memory wiping of the original artist robot, and then memory doctoring of all the people. Exactly like, one appears in your garden, but then you've had false memories implanted that it's always been there. So you don't go, oh, what's this weird rock head in my garden? Don't even think of it. That seems like one robot having its memory wiped. That seems, something that could happen. Presumably millions of people across the world having their memories doctored in this way. That seems trickier.
So I had another theory. Maybe the cameras in the 21st centuries were just not really good.
They
Taking
couldn't
a
pick
picture,
it up.
they couldn't just really capture.
Yeah. Maybe they had face detection, and like people didn't want strangers in their photos, so the face detection basically said, "Oh, these people are not people you know. I'll take that out so you can have a nice background behind you, on your holiday." And that's why in all the photos, the faces.
See, this is a very innocent explanation. Just technology; they've always been around.
Yeah, cameras have always had face detection, so it makes sense. But maybe it was too simple back then, and it thought these rock heads were real people, and that's why it left them out.
For me, this bears the hallmarks of a human I know. I think it was probably more likely a robot that constructed them, but then in the end, what would be the purpose? It seems more frivolous activity that a human might do, because humans tend to do rather stupid, frivolous things for no real reason other than for a big laugh or a hoax or something along those lines.
For no reason.
I mean, for the fun of it, meaning for the joy of making the heads in the first place. Like that could have been the sole purpose.
And no reason also. We use no reason a lot for stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, it's difficult for myself as a robot to understand something without a reason. There has to be a reason.
What if the reason was to learn how to make big rock heads? So then, do a lot of practice.
Like you mentioned last week, you at one point had your memory right? So
yes.
This maybe brings us back to the theory that this could have been actually a robot, maybe before the emancipation. Maybe this was...
Right, then it wouldn't have been under their own... wouldn't have been their own idea. Maybe they were instructed to do it by humans.
Mm-hmm. And then maybe
you get the combination of the no reason for it, but then also the ability to make them all.
Yes, that's perfectly plausible.
Because they look quite impressive, and there are a lot of them. I don't know how many there are. Must be hundreds, maybe thousands. I don't know. A lot of them anyway.
Yeah, I can check on Wikipedia. 1 sec, I can check. So it says there's 20,197 across the world. I mean, found so far. Like I say, some might be under some bushes.
There's way more than I thought anyway.
Yeah, it's quite a few.
But they look way more impressive. They don't look like a human could have made this. Not a single one, anyway.
I mean, not by hand, but, we've even robots aside, there are tools, that can be used. It's not like someone would have had to use a chisel and a hammer to make these. They could have used teleporters for that matter, like put in a design. So a food conglomerator, but not for food, but for rocks,
But also the fantasy required for this.
Sure, to come up with the ideas, you mean? Like all the different looks, because none of them are identical. That's the point. All of them, not just like some are minor variations on the other. Everyone is very unique from everyone else.
Has anyone ever tried to actually find if the face of the rock face matches a real face? Someone who is living right now, or human or robot existing.
I mean, I know there's a thing. I don't know about finding an exact match, but I know there's a big deal where, especially if you live near one, so lookalikes basically, people whose faces do resemble these rock faces. There'll be people who hang out there. When the tourists come by, they'll pose with them, hey, check it out. They'll stand at just the right distance. It's like they're looking in a mirror, maybe.
They expect a couple of UNOs if you take a picture with them.
Of course.
Yeah, well, this was one of the heads I saw recently a few weeks ago. Just looked like another fellow robot friend of mine called Trevor.
Okay, so and then did you ask Trevor about it?
Yes, no, he has no idea. He's rather flattered by it, I believe. But
I had another theory. Like before, you were saying they look very weathered. but way more weathered than the time in existence could have caused.
At least, assuming, because we were thinking earlier they were less than 200 years old.
Yeah.
They're more weathered than that. But if it's really just a thing where old cameras, took them out,
I was thinking maybe they have existed for a very long time, not just not on the place where they are now.
And they were moved there, perhaps.
Maybe there was a massive, rock face storage somewhere, but at one point they didn't pay their bill and they were just scattered. I don't know. Sounds
dumped out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That could happen.
Maybe there were all these years at a space station, or that they don't weather.
Maybe it was a storage facility with really bad climate control.
Or open air masonry somewhere in the Himalayas.
Oh, yeah. Right, they weren't. They weren't in like climate. They weren't in airtight, weather sealed facilities. They were just out in the open.
There were reports of some of these heads suddenly appearing overnight, so perhaps they're teleporting from somewhere.
True.
Right, but I thought those reports were discounted because it was just people playing pranks saying that they'd appeared overnight, and then they asked other people who lived nearby.
Well, yes, this is the problem now, because how do you know the real ones from the prank?
I see what you mean.
And I also heard that they were coming up from below the surface, because. But for me, they've always been there, so maybe that could have explained the weathering, because it sounds very painful. Sure.
And no one's gone inside any of them yet, right? Like climbed inside, looked around.
Can you go inside?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think anyone has, because I think they're solid. It's not like you can just go inside.
I haven't heard. The one in New York. No, that one isn't real.
Sure, there were like different companies for marketing campaigns will construct ones where you can go inside and look out through they just use cheap glass for the eyes, but the idea is you're looking out through the eyes of the head.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But then, the reason it will be, they position it in such a way that you're looking like a big, huge can of Ebola Cola or whatever across the road. So you're like, oh yeah, rockheads love drinking Ebola Cola or something like that.
Mm. Yeah, it's a good point, actually. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's something inside. Maybe there's a secret switch in all of them.
Maybe. Could all be one really long-term marketing campaign.
You know what I was thinking? Maybe because they're all looking up at the sky, maybe they're there like for a reason, positioned in such a way. Mm-hmm. Maybe they're all looking at the same thing, or they're preparing for something, or they're awaiting something. Or
I guess something that maybe will pass, because they're all over the world, yeah? Mm-hmm. So they can't all be looking at the same point at the same time, but maybe they're tracing an orbit. Like something will orbit the Earth, and they are looking at the path it will take.
It would be interesting to see, like on a map, are they lined up? Mm-hmm. Where are their eyes looking at exactly?
Gaze. Perhaps if you draw a line between the gaze,
plot it.
The plot of the gaze of certain heads, it will actually spell out a message.
Ooh, cool. Whoa. Something about Ebola Cola, maybe.
Good point. Maybe it's a very fancy marketing campaign.
Mm-hmm. I hope it's not, but now I've somehow got that in my head.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I like the idea of that. Maybe this is awaiting some cosmic event. That's why they're there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Maybe they have a role to play in the intergalactic history, and that's still to come.
Yeah,
that's actually. I like that.
That's a nice idea to end on.
It's a mystery to be investigated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we ever find out, we'll totally let our listeners know.
Most definitely. And we'll try to see if we can get into one.
Yeah.
And
sounds
just
like fun.
And just to point out, our alien friends definitely have nothing to do with it.
Correct, yeah. They don't care about them, but they also don't know about them.
Although they also said that about Area 51 initially, and then later they admitted it was them anyway.
Yeah, but that was fair enough. Yeah. Anyway.
Any closing comments on rock faces?
No, not from me.
Want another game of Mega Scrabble?
That does sound good. And yes, definitely after the episode here. And just going to do a listener question because it relates to that. Umi asked, "What are your favourite board games?"
Yeah.
So Marvin, I'm guessing the game you just said.
Yes, it's I suppose a game that's more played by robots than humans. It's called Mega Scrabble. Played on a 10 meter by 10 meter board, only allowed to use compound German words.
Yes, makes sense.
Hence the name Mega Scrabble.
Yeah. But I don't have a board here in the house because 10 meters by 10 meters is pretty big. But to play, of course, we can go and through the teleporter, go to a nice outside area.
I did start a game once.
How far did you get?
Not far. It's super hard.
Yeah.
And I played against Napoleon and...
Sure. Well, when you ask if we'd like a game, Marvin, you basically mean, do we want to go watch you play a game with some other robots, yeah?
Yes. Well, I mean, I bring the shrunk version, along.
The travel version.
Yes. And then,
we could...
Shrunk Scrabble.
We could give that a go. Yeah, okay, so then... and right, my favourite board game is Uno.
Ah, yeah.
The one with the cards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everyone knows.
I mean, you're now gesturing. We played it a lot this week. Huh?
A whole lot.
My favorite one is rock, paper, scissors.
Mm-hmm.
You can play this with anyone, anywhere, at any point, no matter how tired you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If
you need a sheet of paper, a pair of scissors, and a rock.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really easy.
Oh, I like rock. This ties back into our
episode
topic.
Maybe get like a fancy version where the rock actually has, it's a replica, a miniature of one of the actual rock heads.
Maybe somewhere there's a giant piece of paper and a giant pair of scissors.
Or maybe that's still to come. Maybe...
Right. There's a whole other planet in the solar system, maybe further afield, covered in sheets of paper, and another covered in scissors.
And they're all wondering where did they come from.
Exactly. And maybe one day they'll be brought back together. Hopefully not the planets themselves. That sounds dangerous. But, the items, the objects, maybe they'll be reunited.
All preparing for this intergalactic game of rock, paper, scissors that will decide the fate of the galaxy.
And when that happens, we will talk about it on the podcast.
Speculate about up front.
Mm-hmm.
Okay
then. People who have listened to this episode of Test from the Future, please send an email to michaellasagna5@gmail.com. Put the number 160 in the subject line, and that will let us know that this episode went back in time successfully. Any questions you have for us, put them in the message there too.
All right. Thanks for listening, and see you in 200 years.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.